Shall we start?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
Yeah, so HYDROS, I guess we've been doing this about, I don't know, 5 years now. Time flies, but, we wanted to come to market with something different. I think we've kind of proven ourselves that we're here to stay. We're going to continue to innovate, and that's what we want to do, advance the hobby, give people new tools for success. So I think we'll introduce you to a couple of more that we got here for the show.
Yeah, we've been here for 5 years, and one thing that people don't know is that the wave engine was actually the first one, and we were already thinking about a controller, but we weren't sure. So we released the wave engine, and if you look at the wave engine, it's very similar. It has the same, kind of like the same app. It works the same way. So that was a way of kind of testing the market and see what people are interested, see who people, if they like the app, if what changes they want to make. So then when we released the controller a few years later, the app was much better, and it wasn't just a first-time thing. So, people kind of don't know that about it, but that's the way kind of we planned it. So we've been doing this for longer than 5 years. Just HYDROS has been, the controller has been for 4 or 5 years, but, wave engine a couple of years before that. All right, introduce our Jessica here, who's going to be our master of ceremony, telling us we're not going too fast or too slow. All right, so the Soul, it's the brand new product. It's compatible with freshwater and saltwater. All right, Dave? Yeah. I think you've been using it for a sulfur reactor. I've been using it on a sulfur reactor and also a nitrate, or a calcium reactor. The thing is, go ahead, Jessica. Okay, it's a complete controller. So it has a brain. So you hit the upload button, it uploads the configuration just like it uploads to Control 4, to Control 2. It holds that configuration in there. It doesn't depend on anything via Wi-Fi to know when to make the decision. All right. So it can also be part of collective.
Part of a collective. It's a standalone device on its own as well.
Yes.
So you can tie it in to your collective which you already have with HYDROS, or if you just need a continuous duty controller, you can have that as well with this.
Mm-hmm. The dimensions it's pretty small. Look at it. It's 6 by 3.6 by 1 and 125. So let's, 6 by 3.5 and 4 1/4. Let's put it that way. It's very small. As you can see, it doesn't have, there's no sense ports, there's no drive ports in there. We always make this joke. We released the XP8 and everybody wanted sense ports on the XP8. Then we released the Chacon and everybody doesn't want the, and then we released the X10 and people didn't want the sensors. They wanted the dosing pump. So now we just gave you, okay, here's a strictly dosing pump. All right?
I want to make note, this motor we're using is a medical grade stepper motor. This motor comes from Comor, who we also distribute for. So we tried to source the best stepper motor we could. And this has been running it for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
Been very reliable, very quiet, which is a big thing for a lot of people.
Yes. As we covered there, it's alkaline, calcium, magnesium, trace elements. I know some people, I'm going to answer this. Some people are thinking of a water change. And yes, a water change will work on a smaller tank. It's just 300, there's certain speed. After that, you just can't do it. So I would say on a small tank, it will work perfectly fine. But just like anything else, you can't have a product that's good for every single application. So depending on the application, we can say yes or no on that one. Running continuously, that's a big one, and it is incredibly quiet.
Yeah.
Yes. All right.
Speed. Yeah, you're talking, you can run as low as 0.1 mils all the way up to 300 mils.
Yes. I've run mine at 300, and the noise you can hear when the rollers hit the rubber on the line, but other than that, at 300, at about 200, can't hear the thing. I can see this right here. This is the shaft, and it rotates, so you can see it rotating, or you can put your hand on it, but otherwise, you can't hear the pump. And the controller and any other compatible pump running at 100 or more, you can hear the clack, 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 clack.
Yeah, so we sold a lot of you may be familiar with the Comor, the FXSTP
Yes.
pumps. We sold many thousands of those. After about 100 mils, that thing was really making a lot of noise.
Yes.
Required a lot of maintenance with lubrication. None of that with this one.
No, no. In terms of, we didn't put that in here. In terms of life, I'll go back to the application. Obviously, if you're running it continuously at 300 milliliters per minute, it's probably not going to last. The lines are going to have to be maintained more often. Other than that, it should be maintained just like any other dosing pump. So depending on the application, you may have to be more frequent or less frequent. It is what it is. Rugged material, right, Dave?
Yeah, that's what we build. Everything's IP65 rated on this.
Yes.
The connectors, the enclosure. Some people were saying, well, that power connector is right there, it's all waterproof. So it leaks, you're protected.
Yes, exactly. So you also, like IP65, which means that this is a dosing pump doing dosing for a aquarium. You can put it right by the aquarium.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay. Nobody's going to tell you, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to put it away from the aquarium. No, you can do that here. Everything is on the HYDROS app, and that's the one thing that we wanted to do with HYDROS is it's mainly about the app. Every new piece of hardware that we bring works on that app, and it works just as seamlessly, which means that if you have an X10, if you have a regular simple doser, then you are going to know how to run this because it runs exactly the same way. It gets configured the same way. Once you learn one product, you don't have to learn another product again, all right? And then one thing that we missed in there, that's okay, it's the backup. Every configuration gets backed up to the cloud. Yes. Yeah. All right. The price is going to be $299, and it will be available late summer 2024.
Yep.
All right. Cool. All right. This is the other one.
Oh,
Okay. Do we have any questions, I guess, on that?
Oh yeah, can you power the soul with this microphone, right?
Okay.
Can you power the soul with the Kraken?
The question is, can you power the soul with the Kraken? And the answer is yes. Yes. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Any other questions about the soul? Good.
How big is the tank as far as water figures?
Well, think about it. 300 milliliters per minute. When you do the math, depending on how much you want to make a change. If you have a big tank, but you're only making half a liter change, an example, then probably yes. If you're making 20, 30 liters, the math is probably not going to add up. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Let me do one more over there.
Yeah, so this boat runs in both directions.
Yes, forward and reverse.
So for instance, if I wanted to run a smaller tank and I wanted to do just a water exchange off of my main larger display, that's something I can do with the one pump.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How do you maintain the
There are 4 screws in front. Take them off and then pops out. It's very easy and it's very different because it's literally, if you had the misfortune of going to a hospital and being part of a chemo ward or something, unfortunately, that's what they're mostly using. And it's very easy to take out and maintain because the nurses have to be able to do this real quick. And, so that's, yeah. Go ahead.
how hot is it relative
Relative to the other, to which one?
to the standard blue, the standard HYDROS?
Well, the standard HYDROS pump blue it's got a very small head and it runs at 40 milliliters per minute. So it's relatively quiet. This one runs at 300 and it's just as quiet. Yes. I can hear what you're saying. Oh, yeah, thank you. Any other questions? All right, so let's move on to the next one. So This is the one that we've been holding back, and I think we hinted on at Rap Orlando. We kind of, somebody asked a question, and I was like, lighting, yeah, maybe.
The thing with lighting, and I started this company with lighting, with metal halide, and you look at the market, and there's so many LED lights out, it's like, how are we going to do something different? How are we going to differentiate ourselves from the competition? And, we're good with electronics, and we can lay out diodes on the board, but at the end of the day, we really weren't experts at doing this. And I have a friend here that's here, and Tulio Dellaquilla from ReefBrite, who's been doing this for about 20 years now. And say, hey, why don't we talk together and see what we can do together, and combine our skills and really try and come up with something that's good for the hobby.
HYDROS XHO, that's the name of the name. We're going to have two versions, HYDROS XHO and HYDROS XHO Blue. And we'll talk about the difference between the two versions a little bit later. It's a collaboration, like Dave emphasized. We are CoralVue, which means that we're turning into a controller company, pretty much. Yeah. And we don't know everything. Dave doesn't know anything. I don't know anything. Our engineers don't know everything. Tulio doesn't know everything. So what we do is we combine, several heads and come up with a better product. Because at the end of the day, we can't do everything. We just don't have the bandwidth. Okay? So, all right. It will work as a standalone product, which means that you do not need to have controller, HYDROS controller. You can do it, you can group them through the app. So on the app, you're going to be able to grab multiple lights, group them together, hit an upload, and upload to all the lights. So as a digital group, all right? And it will allow you for basic scheduling, all right? Now, with the HYDROS controller, now you have a whole world that opens up. It can be added to a collective. You will have access to latitude lighting, cycles of the sun. The lights can follow modes, and the lights also can depend on other inputs. And this is physically impossible. I know I heard somebody say basic scheduling. And the reason why is because you can't have, if you have the HYDROS lights running by themselves without any type of temperature sensor or an input, you can't have them depend on a temperature that doesn't exist. So once you have the controller, you have the temperature sensor, you have leak detectors, then you have all this information that's coming into the light where you can make decisions. All right. Also, the controller itself has brain to do a lot more complicated things that the light is not going to be able to do. The light still comes up with an ESP32 rotor chip, and it's fully Wi-Fi. So you're not going to have to run command bus ports from one controller into the light. It's not going to work that way because none of us wanted to do that. All right. All right. Here are the 7 channels. It's going to be a 7-channel light, and I'm going to ask Tulio to step up here and start chatting. Help us out here.
Yeah, take this mic, Tulio.
Over here, then I'll be on the other side of this thing. Morning, everybody, by the way.
Tulio Dellaquilla, he's ReefBrite along with Joey Meadows. Right? So Tulio, tell us about the light.
Okay, so real briefly, without getting into a whole long, boring dissertation about what I've done and who I am, I've been working in this industry for easily 25 years. I've manufactured lighting for companies like the original Ice Cap, PFO, Champion Lighting, Marine Depot when they sold lights, and I've been manufacturing, selling lamps and other different lighting-related components and things like that for well over 20 years, and I've spent most of that time working with LEDs. Now, some of you who may recognize me from some of the stuff I do with metal halides know that I'm a fan of metal halides, right? And so everybody always talked about a better replacement for metal halide lighting. And that's why, if you look right here, this is the white channel. Now, here's the funny part about it. A friend of mine, Andrew Sandler, walks up to me this morning, and he was complaining about how white the light is. I said, but Andrew, you just turn the white channel down like you do with any other lights. He says, but the white. I said, Andrew, we were talking about metal halide and the broader spectrum and the importance for the, for growing corals and doing some of the other stuff like that. You can't have what? Oh yeah, that makes sense. So the white channel, basically, it's real simple, guys. If you want to grow corals, turn that channel on. Maybe even turn it on during the day when you're at work if you don't like what white looks like. Let them get a few hours, 4 or 5 hours of that, because Carlos will explain what that white channel does, because Jeremy and some of the team from CoralVue experienced the difference firsthand. So if you want to do that, run them while you're at work, run them for a few hours a day, but then you have the rest of the channels for all of the pop and the color and all the things that you love about reef lights.
Yeah, so elaborating on Tulio's point, at the office, we had a couple of people that gave him the lights. And just an example, simple example, they had a set of mangroves in the back of the tank, in a frag tank. They put the lights in there, and the mangroves were doing okay. They were doing fine. They were fine. And then they had another set of mangroves on another different tank with a different light. I'm not going to say the brand, just a different light. And within a month and a half, those mangroves had leaves, roots, everything. And the other ones that were in the same water but different lighting, oh my God, they were sorry. They were so bad. It was just, that's mangroves. But again, he did the same thing with the corals, and the frags were going crazy. And the reason why, like Tulio said, is because of this part right here. This is kind of like what a metal halide used to give us back in the day.
This right here is basically similar to the energy in the visible region. Now, for reasons easily explainable, there's no UV, okay? But the rest of it in good proximity is there, and that's why this channel looks so different as well.
Yes.
Okay? And that's why we're very, very excited about this. And to that, I'm sorry, I just found out I was doing this last night. But I do want to thank David from CoralVue for believing in us. And let me tell you something, we absolutely could not have done this light without them. I may know a thing or two about photons, but what the stuff these guys are able to do with the control side of things, we're really excited. Hence the 7 channels, which we'll get to it another part of this. But yeah, so the white channel, if you want to grow corals.
Yes. Another thing that I want to make sure that we convey is that the white channel, all this is coming from 2 LED diodes.
Yeah.
There is no red. There are no red LEDs. There are no green LEDs in there somewhere with a whole bunch of white ones to kind of get this. This is coming from two white LEDs. That's it.
Basically what we've done is you're going to see, when you're looking at the light, you're going to see 2 apparently different white LEDs. We've tuned the phosphors, literally, to distribute the energy where we want it. And the reason why this becomes important, think about this. If I had a hypothetical fixture, and I had red LEDs over here and green LEDs over here, and I had different color LEDs throughout the matrix of this LED array. If I took my spectrometer and I started snooping around, I'm going to see all of these crazy kind of spectral peaks and all of these different variances in the light, depending on where I am, what angle I am, some of these other things, right? And I'll give you a little tip you can take home with you to prove this. How many people here use a par meter? You guys measure your par straight up, right? Start putting your par meter at an angle to the light source, and I'm going to tell you, you're going to get a much different reading. So you will see scenarios where you think your par might be 200, but at an angle, the PPFD could be 300 or higher. So now you're turning up your PPFD because you're measuring straight up and down. You want to jack that up to 400. Well, now that angular measurement could be at 600. So now back to the light. The reason why we tune the phosphors for you is if you take a PPFD meter or a spectrometer, coast to coast, left to right, front to back, you will not see those spectral spikes or images because it's one constant light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, moving on to the blue channel. And no, it's okay. All right, so the blue channel is the one that everybody knows from ReefBrite,
Right.
correct? But you kind of souped it up a little bit, didn't you?
Well, here's the thing. Again, what we did was we homogenized the light. In other words, when this light is operating, you'll see the many different wavelengths and frequencies and things going on in this light color LEDs.
Mm-hmm.
They just all look blue. Because even the team, when they first received the light, they're like, hey, the violet channel, the LEDs are blue. I'm like, no, you got to put it over something, and that's when the light is essentially purple. So again, it's about that homogeneous kind of distribution of light, and that's where we essentially improved upon ourselves with the blue channels and the other associated channels.
Right. Now, moving on to the violet channel, that's kind of like my favorite because I've been asking for that one for a while.
Yes.
So I've been around the hobby for many years, 20, God no, it's going to be 25 now, 25 years. And back in the old days, does anybody remember the super actinic VHOs? Not the T5s, not the PC compacts, the VHOs. And yes, exactly, T12. You go, and remember that color that was so amazing that kind of like you can't get that anymore because it's just been it's been pushed out and not recreated, not taking the time to recreate because it's like, I just put a light on, sell it, and be whatever. So we asked Tulio, it's like, can you please give me that actinic VHO, that the elusive actinic VHO, and he pretty much gave us that.
Oh yeah. So purple is okay. Has anybody here ever played with a black light over their tank? Somebody must have done it, right? And so what you get is you get this weird green hazy thing going on, right? So when you're dealing with violet wavelengths, it's really tricky, again, to make the light look homogeneous. One of the reasons why that elusive purple that you're talking about from the VHO lamp was so difficult. Well, with the ultra-actinic, a new light from CoralVue as well, the ultra-actinic is what started the platform, okay? And we demonstrated that violet. Well, in this case, because of the control side, we're able to really, so this purple is purple. I mean, it's they showed it again to Andrew Sandler, who's another fan of purple, by the way, these purple guys. And like I said, he said, you finally, they finally were able to recreate the purple. The sad thing is, you can't take a picture of this. You can't get it on video. You can't. It is so. It's like and at a lower intensity, your tank literally looks like it's just floating in space and glowing. It's ridiculous. Yes.
It does. Sometimes I feel that everybody, if you were not around for metal halides and VHOs, then you are trying to get the corals to pop, and you just keep adding blue and blue and blue, and it's never going to make the corals pop. I think once you see this light and that pop, you'll be like, oh, this is what I've been searching for the longest time. If you've been around the hobby, you know what I'm talking about. But the newer people, probably, they're going to be, I think they're going to be very pleased. All right, moving on to the Moon channel.
Okay, now here's where things get exciting. And here's where the other three channels come into play. So remember how I told you guys I'm old? Remember how I told you guys I've been doing this really long time? Well, one of my first jobs in the industry 25 years ago was to manufacture LED-based moonlights for our industry, very simply put, okay? So with the Moonlight channel, what we were able to do is incorporate a standard moonlight area, and those specific LEDs, there are special LEDs used for this, and this is the spectral power distribution from those LEDs right there. But then because CoralVue was able to do basically such a fabulous job in the controlling of the LEDs themselves, via the app, you're going to be able to designate either your white channel or your blue channel or
Violet as well.
Well, I guess you'll be able to designate any channel you want, so that adds an additional channel and associate it as a Moonlight channel. Now, here's where this becomes important, guys, and this is where things get cool. Back to me being old and me doing this a long time. For many, 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 many years, ReefBrite has manufactured the lighting for many of the coral spawning systems around the world. Some of you guys may have heard of Jamie Craig's. We manufactured the lights for those systems for many, many, many years. So again, we have some experience. We work with a lot of people that do coral restoration, coral spawning, all of that stuff. Because of the control, these are going to be configured to allow you to simulate true moonlight cycles, so that if your system had the capability and you had the resources and the wherewithal, you in fact could replicate what many of these scientists around the world are doing, because you'll have access to the same programming and moonlight simulations.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Going over the, okay, there you go. So you can, no, let's go back. So you'll be able to, so we have a white channel, blue channel, violet channel. Now, white moon, what it's going to be is you're going to be able to, we're going to have a separate channel that it's going to run this white moon between 1 and 5%. And then you can actually dim it. So you'll actually be able to have a new moon and full moon if you wanted to do that. You can do the same thing with the blue channel. You'll be able to do the same thing with the white channel, or you will be able to say with the designated moon channel. So people that like blue, they'll be able to just grab the blue channel moon and then select that and then put that in their as their tank. One really cool thing that we play around is the white channel, around 2%, and the violet channel around 3%. And it just makes the tank really cool. Like, really cool.
Well, and it's not with the Moonlight. If you really think about it, most Moonlight devices, in the end, you can see the light. Meaning, you can see these cones coming down. Right. You can see all this weird stuff going on. With this system, and I literally mean this, when these lights are at 1 and 2% respectively or whatever, you cannot even see the light emitting out of the fixture. Mm-hmm. Your tank just glows. It's the hardest thing to describe, because you're not seeing the emission, so you don't see where the moonlight's coming from. And because all the lights integrally become part of the moonlight, literally your entire tank just glows.
Yeah, you don't see the rays of light. All you see is when the light hits the surface and bounces.
Yes, exactly. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. All right. Now we're good. Yes, we are sure. All right, it's going to be a coast-to-coast light fixture. 3 inches wide, and then 12, 23, 35, 47, and 59 inches long. So we have different versions. There is the approximate wattage. So don't take this as these are the watts. It's an approximate wattage.
I just want to say something, because this is important. This is the approximate operational wattages. Okay? Many lights will give you wattages as ratings. Okay? And obviously that's not if you monitor your devices. You guys always know that. We've never liked to do the wattage thing, because LEDs, many people don't realize, they're not ohmic devices, which means depending on ambient temperatures and so many other factors, you might look at your CoralVue HYDROS and say, hey, the light's pulling 29 watts. It's no, the light's working just fine.
Yes.
Or in some cases, the light might be pulling 31 watts, or whatever the case may be, the wattage, but that's just the approximate consumption.
Right. So the reason why we put the wattage in there is because we want to make something clear. For many years, ReefBrite has been known as kind of like a supplemental lighting. You grab your main lights and then you supplement with ReefBrite. These are not supplemental lighting. These are straight on full lights that will be working on your tank.
Yeah, and the way it works out this way, for example, if you were to look at the 24-inch fixture, okay? Because I know the guy who designed the light. Only kidding. But anyway, if you look at the 24-inch fixture, here's what I did. If you were to take 4 of these lights, which you might configure on a bigger tank, it's normal, because again, these not only blur the line between a fixture and a strip light, we've brought back that VHO spectra and coverage and all of that. So if you're running 4 of these, 60 times 4 is 240 watts. You would easily be the equivalent of popular other lighting systems out there. Whereas other products in that category, if you took 4 of the lights, you would actually be at 160 watts. If you took 3 of these lights, 24 inches, I can replace a Philips Coral Care. See, so what we've done is we've allowed you the amount of light. For example, one of these lights, you could easily do an LPS over a reasonably sized tank. It's no different than anything else you might run. You need more light, you add a second one. Maybe you want the advantages of the white, but you want more blue.
Yes.
So you have a white and a blue. You know, you can mix and match, and I won't rush through, but they're also easily mounted. That's the other.
Yes. Yes, and we're going to go through that part next. All right. So these lights are made in a way that they're almost, I'm going to call it a universal mount.
Yeah.
Which means that any mount, literally 90% of the mounts out there that you purchase for other lights, they will fit on this slide.
Yeah.
Which makes it so much better, because then you can replace the lights by this ones but still leave that mount. You can hang it, you can mount it from the back, you can mount it from the side, pretty much anything you want. Whatever mounting kit you have is likely going to fit.
And by the way, this was consciously done for one simple reason. Because anyone who's ever seen any of the lighting videos and stuff I do, I always call it straight. It was actually easier, because think about this. You might be using XYZ light, and this is not a brand thing. Maybe you just decide that you like this light and you want to run it and everything. Well, you could easily have a few $100s invested in mounts and other things like that. You know, these mounts these days aren't cheap either. So if you have 3 or 4 mounts, there's a few $100s right there. So if you can repurpose that, if you will, and maybe you like that style mount. Many times people buy the lights because they like the style of the mount. There's just different things that they like about these. So with this configuration, we give you as many choices as humanly possible. Yeah.
Yes.
You can hang these things, you can suspend them. The options are limitless.
Limited. It's made from the same rugged material, you know, HYDROS and ReefBrite. You come to know it, they're rugged. It is not IP65 rated, so let me make that clear. But it is built for the environment. It's passively cool, so there are no fans here. No fans.
It's not IP65, but it is sealed.
Yeah.
Okay, the boards are sealed. We manufacture lighting and have historically for years and years for some of the most harsh environments, scientific, commercial applications in the world. So our lights, they've always been sealed. A lot of people don't realize that, especially the Moonlight Pros and the new Ultra Actinics and all that. So they are all sealed. It's not IP65, but it is sealed. So if you get it splashed and things like that, you know, not a big deal.
All right, it's going to use the familiar HYDROS app. And so no learning software, just like you were using the Soul. You're going to be able to use the HYDROS app. Everything is backed up to the cloud. The configuration is uploaded to the light itself. So for those of you that are concerned that maybe the light's going to stay on, you know, if you're like a farmer or coral spawner, the lights won't do that, because the lights will have the schedule in them with an ESP32 rover chip in there, which is able to make decisions. So you're not going to have the problem where the brain doesn't tell the light to turn off, and then it stays on and screws up your spawning cycle. Yes.
Oh yeah, and by the way, when I tested the first light, because remember it was kind of a weird thing, because we built the light, but we needed CoralVue to be able to turn it on. The LEDs, everything were there, but we needed the software and everything else. So when we fired up the first light, it was literally just the light. There was no HYDROS controller or none of that involved. In fact, all of the initial testing was done via just the light. It was I never even hooked it up to my collective yet.
Nope.
Because I knew I was bringing it to the show, and I didn't know if I'd have to undo it or, any of these other things. But yeah, no, it's really a standalone brain.
All right. And then I'm going to ask Dave to step back in here.
Yeah, please.
All right. As far as retail pricing, it's going to be comparable.
Yeah, it's going to be comparable to what you see on the market now.
Yeah.
We haven't really finalized anything yet, but we'll have that pretty shortly.
Yes. And then available early 2025. Again, for a long time, we kept products very close to our hearts when it came to CoralVue. And because we didn't want to, we didn't get too early. We didn't want to give competition a heads up. But, things have changed. Things have,
asking us
yeah.
for these things.
Yes.
If you guys had this, and when they want to talking about investing into HYDROS, and I felt like let's let people see what's in the pipeline.
right.
And really, I hope it'll be before 25.
Yeah. I mean, we're hoping, but it's going to, let's just,
Really, everything's done. It's the little things that really.
yeah,
Packaging is really.
correct. Correct.
You're relying on other people, a packaging company that supply boxes, and a lot of little things, but we're there. So
Yep. All right. And then, any questions? Oh, here we go. A lot. Okay, I'm going to start over there.
So I know plug into XPA and other things that have power loading. Do you have access to how hot the unit actually is while it's on?
Will we have access to how the temperature and everything of the unit
Yeah.
while it's on? And is it? Yes.
just
Yes.
like you see on other devices.
Yeah. It also has built-in checks so that if the light is running too hot itself, then the SP32, the computer inside, will say, okay, no, you're too hot, let's turn it off. So there's a lot of safety there also. All right, what question over there?
So I have several questions. So obviously, since you have the option for the smaller units, are they going to be AC capable in the sense of trying to reduce the amount of power bricks, or is that something where each one's going to have its own power supply?
They are going to have their own power supply. Yeah, they are going to have their own power supply. Yes.
But if you get into a Chacon,
Yeah, if you get it to a Kraken, they all go to the same thing. You in a Kraken, you can do that. Just remember, Kraken is 480 watts, so you do have a limited amount on that. All right. Another question.
Okay. So as far as like the dimming, like I noticed with some brands when they go through the dimming functions, it's a pretty harsh transition for when you go through the dimming steps. How is the dimming on this like compared to some of the other?
It's pretty smooth.
yeah.
It is very smooth. There's no flickering. It's very smooth dimming.
Especially when you talk about we can dim it down to
1%. Technically, we can dim it down a little bit lower than that.
Yeah.
But no, again, you have a lighting company and a controller company. Our job was to, like Tulio says, our job was to make him work. His job was to get the spectrum correctly. So, and that's the best way to do it. We are not going to go ahead and sit down and do a lighting because we just can't do it. But Tulio, like he said, he was very impressed on what we could do with those LEDs and how low we can drive them without flickering or without any type of change on spectrum.
Typically, you start driving these LEDs down, you start seeing a flicker to the eye. So yeah, we've got it so smooth that it's really just so steady.
Yes. Any other questions? Oh, right there. Height. All right. So height gets a little bit. What was it? What was your Tulio? What were your readings at 18 inches?
For the 24-inch, we were getting in the ballpark of anywhere between 135 and 160.
So
That's a single light.
that's a single light. So a 12-inch light pod, as we call them, and it was 18 inches, and it was 130. You said?
Well, no, that was with the Farwise.
Yeah, par-wise, yes.
And yeah, they were getting 120-ish off a 12-inch light. So
Yeah, 12-inch length light, 18 inches down.
No, I just did. They have the.
Yeah, good.
I can bring
Right.
back to you.
The important thing is what we did with the light too was with the PPFD, okay? It's not only directly under the light, but this light has a ridiculous spread. When they were playing with the 12-inch light yesterday, I guess they were playing it at the Worldwide Corals booth, and they had the 12-inch light. And the 12-inch light was illuminating the 36-inch tank.
Yes.
The spread from the light was illuminating, so you have to understand something. When you use multiples of these lights, you cross-raise the spread. They literally layer over one another. That's the way it's designed to do. So yeah, and that output is even.
Yeah. I want to clarify something in here, and I think this is just, it's physics. The human eye, when you see lighting, the human eye will tend to go right to the brightest spot. And the human eye will make the decision and say, this is how bright the light is. In that bright spot, it could be a little spot right here down the middle, and then everything is dim and set. But we go right for that bright spot and say, that's how bright the light is. Okay? Then we had the coral cares that came in, and people were complaining that the coral cares were too dim. And the reason why is because you didn't have a hot spot. The human eye didn't have this bright spot to go to where you can make, your brain can consider that the height, the peak of the brightness. So it made, look, the difference is that a lot of the lights that are the pod lights, they have this, you have, I'm just going to make a number, 400 ppfd or 400 par. And everybody says it's 400 par. Well, 400 par in this little circle right here, but if you start veering away, then the par starts to go down drastically. With this lights, you have that what a homogeneous, just a nice spread. So you're not going to have 400 in one spot, but you're going to have a lot more par throughout the thing. That, again, it comes back to what metal. Yes.
If I have a light that has 200 par here, and the par is 10 over there, and I added up all those different measurements and looked at the total par, for example, and frankly, in horticulture and stuff, they look at bark a lot and things like that. That's how they calculated total amount of light. So if you take the multiple points and add them all up, and then add them by the number of points that you measured, you would see that the total PPFD is much greater. Yeah.
Yes. So again, homogeneous, you get the metal headlight kind of look, which is, the big difference is that when you grow corals under a light that has a homogeneous spread, the corals are being bathed for lighting all over the place, and not just a hot spot. So you get corals that instead of growing up, they start to grow out. So for those old timers that have been around for a while, remember metal highlights. With metal highlights, we get our corals and they just grew out, and we had this big colonies. And then the LEDs came in and the coral started to grow up, and now you have a coral, with that keeps just trying to go up and up. Hence I always say, make fun, make joke of this. It's like a 3-branch coral is not a colony. It's just 3 branches. It's a frag. When you have a colony that is a few inches across, then you talk to me about a colony. And I think that's something that has been lost in the hobby. Everybody wants frags because of the lighting. And I think what we're trying to bring back is that old type of lighting that gives you that colony. So you have a tank that has beautiful, healthy, white corals.
And here's what I mean. Can I have that microphone?
Because I've talked about this a lot. Has anybody ever seen a perfectly flat reef? No. So I'm a coral, and I'm on this atoll on this side of the reef over here. Sun's coming up at 6 a.m. There's no light really entering the water yet. That's why we see that beautiful sunrise. The sun has to reach a certain angle before certain amounts of light have to come down. Is my coral over here getting any light? No. Might not be till 10, 11 o'clock, where the sun can crest that atoll. And now I'm going from 0 to 100. See, it's about PPFD over time. Look up daily light integral. Pretty cool stuff, but it's basically PPFD over time. So the point is, light schedule is based on you, not what somebody tells you. If you're working and you want to set your schedule up based on your schedule and set up a 4 or 6 hour photo period with the lights, you base it on what your corals like. You see what I mean? So some of these time schedules, all I'm saying is based on what?
I think one thing that we want to emphasize with this light is that white grows coral. Blue makes it pretty. So I tell customers, and this is something that we're going to start kind of trying to get people to do, is like, you're not home, you're working. If you're working from home, that's a different story. But if you're regular, you go to work and everything, it's like, so put your schedule, put the white lights on when you're not there. Well, I don't like the whites. Well, you're not there. You're not there. Just put the whites on, let the corals take a few hours of white, and by the time you get home, you change the schedule and you make it blue. You get the best of both worlds. You get the corals to grow when you're not there, and then when you get home, they're pretty. That means simplifying it.
And here's the thing. You can grow corals under blue light. Obviously, we've proven that. We've proven you can grow corals under blue light. For whatever reasons, and there are numerous reasons aside from just directly the light. When we expose corals to white light, LED, T5, halide, or otherwise, they just seem to grow at a faster rate, okay? But they will grow under the blue. The important thing also to consider is if you're using a primarily blue tank, which is awesome, sometimes the added growth will also intensify fluorescence. Because see, the fluorescence is always there, even with the white on. It just, you don't see the same effect because of the other wavelengths of light, but the moment you turn off the white, obviously the fluorescence is still there. So it's not going to go away just because you're running white lights.
Yes. Yeah, your corals are not going to, your yellow coral is not going to turn brown because you went white.
Just to elaborate on this question, I think maybe what he was trying to get at is, right out the box, is it going to have like 2 presets? For instance, if I want to, get the XHO pop, I can put the XHO preset versus like 80 plus versus 80 plus.
You mean like just like different spectrums, like LPS, SPS? That's what he meant. Okay. Okay.
And if I misunderstood, listen, I'm lucky if I know what I had for dinner last night. I'm just being real.
Not to cut you off, your added back also above the so yeah.
But I still say, because again, when we're given data, we have to ask based on what? Okay? So some of the stuff we've done because we've been told to. Okay? But I can tell you, as somebody who was recently in the Keys with a team of scientists, that the light that we're working with real corals out in the ocean and everything else is unlike the stuff we're dealing with here, and unlike the schedules and the stuff that we've been told. And the reason why I was invited out there is because those corals are in fact different. Now, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong, because what I said in our conversation for our presentation, if we understand the differences, listen, the hobby has done some really awesome things for corals. We've proven corals can survive without UV. We've demonstrated a lot of different things. So we're trying to take all of that, let's say, data. So, no, this light sets a new light schedule. Because one thing I can confidently say is that if you utilize that white channel, it takes things to a new level. So people are going to use that white channel similar. Think of it similar to like turning a little metal halide bulb on. Mm-hmm. You want to run your halides, you run that white channel. Yep. It'll give you the closest thing we can do right now.
All right. Thank you so much. I think we're kind of, they extended our time and they're going to kick us out of here.